It's Tuesday, July 28th, 2026. I'm Jeff Revilla, your host of Poduty in the News. We're live at the Poduty Live Podcast Theater at downtown Tarentum on Corbett Street. I've got an amazing, incredible guest joining me today. I have Sandra Bargman, the Edge of Everyday podcast host. Not only that, author, singer, director, minister, author, teacher, speaker, all the things. She's doing them all. Sandra, I have just one question for you. Do you know what time it is?
I don't know, Jeff. It's time to party.
What time is it? What time is it? It's time for Poduty and the News. Poduty and the News. The only live news podcast about podcasting from the stage. Poduty and the News. Poduty and the News. The only live news podcast about podcasting from the stage.
Oh, the only live news podcast about podcasting from the stage. Sandra, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. It's a pleasure to be here. And hello to your listeners.
I'm so glad to have you here. We're going through your experience, all the expertise, the things that you've accomplished. That list was so incredible at the beginning of the show, and it ties in so much to what a lot of podcasters are trying to do today. Build communities, present, get in front of people, get in front of an audience, be that force that makes the change in people's lives. And you're doing so much of that. Tell us, a little bit about your podcast, a little bit about your background. The podcast is The Edge of Everyday.
Yes, The Edge of Everyday is based on the solo show that I created, and that's a poster from it if you're watching and not just listening. It's a solo show that I created at the beginning of around 2014, and I did it in New York City and the surrounding areas for a few years, and I was just about to dust it off and update it with some new music when COVID hit. So I turned it into a podcast, exploring the same concepts that I explored in the solo show. But let me back up just quickly to let everyone know I'm a lifelong performer. I popped out of the womb as a singer and an actor and a dancer, voice artist. Fast forward midway through my life, I went to seminary. So I'm a seminary trained and ordained interfaith minister. And I combined those two tracks into my own company called Sacred Stages. And the first show that I did under that umbrella was this Edge of Everyday. And it was my way of exploring and teaching the concepts, the spiritual concepts that I am curious about and like to teach about, and utilizing song and comedy. And I crafted it like a ritual. So I could... people could plug into the show at any level that they wanted. And so those same paradoxical concepts, that's why it's called The Edge of Everyday. We live in very paradoxical times and polarizing times. And that's what was live in my life at the time and what I wanted to explore. And so, when it came time to turn it into a podcast, I decided that I would continue to explore those concepts. So people that come onto my podcast, we talk about, the rough edges of their life and where they're really dealing with change and where paradox and contradictions are showing up in their life and in their work.
Oh, amazing. And people want to find it. I'm sure you just search The Edge of Everyday.
Yeah, totally.
Anywhere.
It's on all the podcast platforms.
And the best way people want to connect with you, learn more about the speaking, the ministry, and just make connections with you. Do you have a direct website that you like to take?
I do, sandrabargman.com. Yep. And I have a YouTube channel, Sandra Bargman on the Edge of Everyday.
You make it so easy. I'll put all those links in the show notes. And we have a special thing we do for each of our guests. It's called the Crew page. And once you've been on the show, you're part of Poduty and the Crew. on Poduty in the News, and you get your own dedicated landing page with any show you've ever been on, plus all the links, show notes, everything's connected to your appearance on the show. So, Sandra, I'd love to have you back on future episodes. All those episodes will be on that dedicated page where you can find all of Sandra's links and bio information.
Love that, Jeff. That's great. Thank you.
Are you ready to get into our stories?
I'm ready to dive in.
I love it. I can't wait to hear the perspective and the experience and telling us, what you think about these next 6 stories. And Bramble Jam Podcast Network is proving that niche podcasts can grow into sustainable businesses. Co-founders Daniel Thompson and Brandon Gray launched the network after creating Deck the Hallmark, a podcast dedicated to reviewing Hallmark movies. Since then, Bramble Jam has expanded to multiple shows serving highly engaged audiences. The network recently reported a 25% increase in advertising revenue after moving to Simplecast, and the founders say their continued focus is on consistency and building loyal communities. And that's really a page right out of my playbook. I really believe that these in-person events, these face-to-face with your community and getting in the weeds and talking and seeing each other's faces, seeing how the host reacts, seeing how the audience reacts. This is really the next level of podcasting, and I'm so excited to see them take it this far.
Oh, totally. Well, it's for me, it's like the best of doing live theater with podcasting. I mean, it couldn't be a better melding of my greatest loves. These one-on-one conversations that I have on my podcast have changed my life immeasurably. And to go and do it on a live stage where you can really, where the audience becomes another member of the conversation, and you can invite them in and they really join in and influence how the conversation goes with their reaction. It's really a communion. And the word that you use we're going to use over and over again, community, the idea of that it's not about content now, it's about connection and building community. And I think since COVID, I think people have really more deeply connected to the idea that building community is so important. When we were isolated during COVID, the surge of connection to building community, I noticed it everywhere. I felt it internally myself. It's part of what propelled me into even stepping into creating a podcast myself.
You mentioned blending your two loves, theater and performing and getting up on stage. And the one thing that podcasting live has over anybody else, over musicians who go from town to town and they play the same set of songs. Comedians are working on a routine, on an act, and they play that routine from town to town. With podcasting, it's a once in a lifetime experience. Sandra and I can't take this show on the road tomorrow and go to Cleveland and Cincinnati. You've already heard it. But when we do one show live, that's the only time in the history of the world that performance is going to happen. And that to me is, I think, the most exciting part about the future of live podcasting.
Oh, totally. Well, and I say this all the time about what adds to that aliveness is the fact that you're constantly needing to learn about new things when you're podcasting. For me personally, the people that I have on my podcast, I'm reading their book, or I'm reading about them. I'm reading about what they love to do, what they do in the world, the work that they're finding paradox in doing. And so it's this constant curious learning curve that, it's just really exciting. It's never the same experience. But I will also say, Jeff, having been a lifelong actor and still doing it, yes, you're doing the same script. However, each performance, while it may not look wildly different on the outside, to the actors on stage, it does feel pretty different depending on the night.
Oh, 100%. And I know that there's little things that you try to do, little things that you'll throw in here and there. And
particularly when you've been doing it for a long time and you need to spice it up.
Yeah, there's lots of little things that actors do on stage that the audience may or may not, catch on to right away.
Right.
But as far as the whole body of work,
Yes,
the live
absolutely.
podcast show isn't something you can really take on tour and do from town to town. And speaking of going from town to town, and a little bit of the tide turning on this next story, which I really love this one, because usually when you think of Comic-Con, you think of the actors who are the heroes of movies or the villains of movies doing these panels, but the tide's turning a little bit, and the podcasts who talk about their fandom and their love of these movies, they're becoming the stars at Comic-Con. And we saw this recently at San Diego Comic-Con, has long been known for celebrity appearances, but this year's convention is giving podcasters a bigger spotlight. Spotify's The Ringer brought shows including House of R and the Midnight Boys to host live events, fan meet and greets, and celebrity interviews throughout the convention. Warner Brothers Television also recorded daily episodes of its podcast, a lot more, featuring cast and creators from its biggest franchise. With more than 135,000 fans attending Comic-Con, podcast hosts are increasingly becoming featured personalities alongside the actors, filmmakers, and studios.
Oh, I love this so much. Well, hey, listen, because we're moving away from that content version of podcasting more into a more authentic voice, people are they're connecting to the podcasters in deeper ways, and podcasters are sharing more of who they are, their own vulnerability, their own stories, and so we're getting to know them a little more deeply. And of course, we're going to choose our favorites and want to see them and become fans of them. And look at where we're getting our news now. More and more with our podcasters. I mean, we used to have our favorite newscasters, and now we have our favorite podcasters. It's shifting. Even the news is shifting to podcasting. So, yeah.
Yeah, if you think about your favorite movie franchise, maybe 18 months, 2 years, 3 years between movie, episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. But a podcaster probably has 52 cracks at the bat a year. Between movies, you may have listened to 104 episodes of a podcast before the sequel comes out. So you're going to build a much better connection with that podcast host so they're kind of on this equal plane. Like, yes, you like the actors, but you also like talking about this. And there's people who are just as passionate as you are. They're also sharing their love and their passion week after week. And you're showing up for them too, not just the actors and directors and writers. It's kind of like this community that you mentioned. We're gonna talk a lot about, but this community, this love of this whatever project you're working on, they're all coming together and they're sharing that passion.
Yeah. Well, it's great to hear their authentic voices. Their lived experience with all of these celebrities, with these movies, their relationship with it, rather than commenting on what it is, their experience with it. And that really shifts it into my attention into turning them into a celebrity. Why I would personally become a fan of a podcaster.
Yeah, and not just thinking of entertainment, but if maybe you're an accountant or a contractor, or you're into the music industry, you have passions with whatever you're invested your time, whatever you've built your expertise in. There's probably events around the country that support what you're doing. So don't just think, okay, I'm not an entertainment podcast. Maybe you're a cooking podcast. Maybe you're baking. Like Procrastinating is a great example of that, where they're baking these recipes and they're connecting with their audience, and they're going to trade shows, they're going to events where there's other bakers, other people in the restaurant industry, and they're part of that community now. So
yeah, totally.
Think about where you fit in and try to go where your audience is. And maybe your audience is in New Orleans, and you're going this year for the 2026 Essence Festival of Culture, opened with a live recording of Michelle Obama's podcast, IMO, co-hosted with Kiki Palmer. The conversation helped launch this year's Ladies First theme, celebrating the influence of Black women throughout music, business, wellness, and live experiences. Beyond concerts, the festival featured live conversations, immersive brand activations, and community events throughout New Orleans, demonstrating how podcasts continue to play a prominent role in major cultural festivals.
Oh my, I watched a clip from this in preparation, and I just love that Michelle Obama, who, I've seen her with her brother on their podcast a number of times. They're great storytellers. She's a great comedian, just a natural comedian, very, very secure and letting herself riff and be funny. And so is her brother. But I really love this conversation with Keke Palmer, whom I did not know. I just love the intergenerational quality, how they were just so naturally conversing and lifting each other up and really setting a tone for women of color, but for all women, of lifting each other up, the vulnerability about their experience. It was, and again, that's the perfect cocktail of why podcasting is getting so popular, is you share lived experience, not just a performative kind of conversation, performative kind of experience. You're sharing lived experience. These women were talking about ways that they had dealt with their families, etc. So, they're speaking with the listeners rather than at them. They're inviting them into these conversations. I just thought it was so powerful. And I can see how it would set the tone for all of these events at something like that.
Yeah, we're seeing so many of these themed events, like Ladies First. Well, that's probably predominantly Michelle Obama's audience. Is most likely, it probably
and Keke's too, yeah.
Yeah, probably skews higher. So putting an event together that really supports the audience, the passions of the audience. And it's something that is really, that's that community again, really. You're building that community and you're supporting your audience who's also supporting you. And it's like the symbiotic relationship now with media, with the hosts and their audience and their communities. You're bringing them together and really supporting each other. Well, let's see if we go on a 14-day tour. We're taking a magician, an illusionist, and creator. Chris Ramsay is taking his podcast, It's Probably Nothing, on the road in 2026 with a 14-city live tour. Each performance is designed as a one-night-only experience featuring mystery guests, audience stories, and live investigations into unexplained topics that extend beyond the podcast. Organizers say there will be no live streams or replays, making each stop an exclusive event that can only be experienced in person.
I love this. This is like where we are in the world, the multi-hyphenate-ness of where podcast is going. It's like a little magic, a little UFOs, a little audience participation. What I really love that they are inviting audience members to come on up on stage and share some stories. That's awesome. And that shows a lot of trust and a lot of vulnerability on the part of both the people on stage and the audience members. But, and speaking to like our first story in terms of niches, I love this mysterious niche that he's created. It's fantastic. Magic and the unseen other realms. It just is great.
The one thing that I really took away from it is, they're not recording it. It's once in a lifetime experience. But
yeah.
It's 100% FOMO. You're either there and you're going to see it, or you're not, and you'll have no idea what happened. And and an event like this is kind of a reward for those loyal followers, those loyal listeners who've been sticking with you from the beginning. They're the ones who are going to want this once in a lifetime experience. If it comes to Pittsburgh, and I know we have some Pittsburgh similarities here, I would want to go if I was a fan, and that's the only way I'm going to get to catch that episode is a unique Pittsburgh-based experience with audience members from Pittsburgh, and
yeah, totally.
How powerful was that, and especially as a reward?
Yeah, it's like being in a salon. I just attended. I'm tuning in for your listeners. I am from Pittsburgh originally, but I live in New York State now. I'm in Manhattan and also in the Catskill Mountains, and I just attended an event in Kingston, New York, that was just like this, pulling in this interviews with audience members, They didn't call it podcasting, but it was sort of this multimedia, multi way of engaging with the audience. There was music, there was readings, there was audience stories. So it was truly a one of a kind, recreating it all across the United States. But this particular group of people who want this particular kind of experience you've got to go live. You're never going to get it. You're never going to be able to watch it on TV or listen to it on a podcast. You've got to be there live.
There's a great company we've covered a couple of times called 404 Media that's in Manhattan that they do experiential shows. I know they're celebrating their 3rd year, and they're doing kind of what you're talking about. You might be in your area as well, but they're doing this, hey, we're celebrating our 3 years. Yes, we have a podcast. We're going to do a live podcast, but it's not the reason why we're coming together. It's the reward for everybody in the community sticking with us, celebrating 3 years. What an accomplishment. And that's the kind of bonus you can give, as an independent producer. Imagine trying to run this up the ladder through Hollywood, like, oh, hey, we did this $1 million movie, but we also want to have a little get together with our fans. That's going to be hard. That's hard to get approved. But when you're the independent owner of your own media, you're creating it and you're in charge, you own the asset, you can do these things.
You can make that happen.
You can make it happen all day long. Well, let's keep it going. We're going to talk about, speaking of making it happen, here's one that made it happen, but this does kind of talk about the realities of going too big, maybe too soon. And there's a lot of expenses involved in some of these events. When you can try to do these like I do at Bootstrap, very cheap DIY. I bought chairs from a Catholic school that for $2 a piece, to fill up the theater. And this person went all in on a $38,000 event. So transparency took center stage on a recent episode of The Lab podcast. As a host, Jay Klaus and his wife, Mallory, shared a detailed breakdown of their 2nd annual in-person community retreat. The episode covered everything from attendee feedback and event planning to the financial realities of producing a 2-day experience. The retreat generated just over $30,000 in revenue while costing nearly $39,000 to produce, resulting in, do the math, $8,300 loss. The discussion also explored what worked, what didn't, and how future events may evolve.
Wow. Well, as someone who has planned events, certainly not on that scale. Interestingly, I have created on my property in the Catskill Mountains. I've reimagined my 1,000 square foot garage and turned it into a salon space. And I mean, if you just go down micro, a 2-day event that I've produced in there, even that small event, I've never broken even, ever. So I can really relate to, if you bite off more than you can chew, losing that money and maybe not having it be such a huge event, to resist the urge to make it so bombastic, choose a few other things and maybe focus in on them a little more sharply and make them a little more successful, in which case maybe not lose that money. But I also understand the urge to want to tick all the boxes and make it all happen like that. Absolutely.
Yeah, one of the things I tell people is you may not have a theater space like this. You may not have an extra salon room that you can build out.
Exactly.
But around your town, around your city, there are coffee shops, there are restaurants with back
plenty
rooms.
of spaces.
There are bowling alleys that have banquet rooms that they don't use it on a Tuesday or Wednesday night.
Even your local library might.
A lot of libraries. Libraries are so underrated with the media centers. Sometimes they even have auditoriums that get very underutilized, and they will host. They are looking a lot of these businesses, these libraries. They are looking for people to come through the front door. So if you can make some sort of arrangement, like, hey, on Tuesday nights, you're not using this banquet room. If I can bring you 20 people, can we get like a good rate on the room, and then we'll guarantee like a certain amount of food and drink or something. Yeah. You can pick up these spaces that are just remnant spaces that aren't being used at certain times of the day or the week, and you can make these arrangements to do this on the cheap, on a shoestring budget, and pull off an incredible event.
Oh, completely. Absolutely. Well, in my salon space, I have yet to do this, but it's certainly high on my priorities is to begin to do live podcasting with an audience. Because, with a salon that we've done in the past, we've done house concerts and salons where we engage with the audience. We do Q&A and we get people coming in on certain topics, doing music on certain topics and engaging with the audience that way. So it's the same idea, again, very micro-sized, but I have yet to do and want to do a live podcast with an audience. Maybe not Q&A, obviously, but having them there as part of that conversation.
Well, you're speaking my language. If you let me know when that's happening, I'll be one of the first ones
Come
to get
on
a ticket.
up. Yes.
Well, building on $39,000, this is probably, I'm going to guess, in the millions. This is a new event space. There's a mall in Jersey, American Dream, and the American Dream has expanded its live entertainment footprint with the opening of 2 new event venues. The 60,000 square foot event center officially opened on July 20th and is designed to host conventions, trade shows, corporate events, and private gatherings for up to 3,500 guests. On July 25th, the new Dream Live Performing Arts Center begins operation with Victory Fighting League's VFL4 Havoc on the Hudson. The venue there is equipped to host concerts, comedy shows, theater productions, live podcasts, and other entertainment with professional sound, lighting, and video production.
The scale is huge to me. I mean, the community building that's taking place in things that size is a little mind-boggling for me. Keeping my fingers crossed. I'm sure if they're bringing in conferences and such, that's a really great way of building connection to that space. But if they're doing live podcasting combined in their conferences, they're going to just continue to build their community that way. You said the word mall. Did I miss when I was reading through about this that they've reimagined a mall? They've built these spaces where a mall used to be, because that would just be fantastic. All of these skeletons of malls around that because people aren't doing shopping in the way that they used to be doing it.
Well, I think American Dream is that mall in Jersey that has the mountain with the ski slope in it. And
I didn't. Yeah, I missed that in reading through it. That's fabulous. So they're reimagining these old spaces and turning them into these great event spaces. That's fantastic. That's the way to utilize these spaces.
Yeah, and look, there was two versions of this. The one was the larger convention center, which would be great if there's a convention about something you're passionate about. Attend that, see if you can become part of it in future years. Like, how do I bring my podcast to the stage? How do I get up on stage and be a speaker or a presenter at a future episode or a future conference? But the other part of it was a smaller theater space where,
Yes.
What we're doing here, maybe it's a 300 or 400 space theater. They're doing live shows, live podcasts, and that was the part that caught my attention. Even this big, giant investment is still thinking future is podcasting, future is live, future is community events.
Future is live. Absolutely. Future is communion. Communion and connection over content and lived experience, authentic voices versus these AI-generated synthetic experiences that are becoming more and more prevalent in all of our entertainment. So it's going to be really important to create events that really that focus on humanity rather than AI generation.
Yeah, I am so bullish on that idea. That's all I can think about is, when AI becomes the commodity, it's so easy to create. The rare thing becomes the live performance. The rare thing is what has value. Getting up on stage, making people laugh, making people smile, cry, react, have emotion. The AI's never made anybody cry. But if you tell a story and you connect with somebody, and you're meeting and they're seeing you face to face. You can't recreate that in any other medium. I mean, maybe movies can make you cry, but as a live performance with real raw emotion and human connection, nothing can really touch a live podcast performance.
As a lifelong live performer, I couldn't agree with you more.
Well, Sandra, this goes by so fast. I warned you, it goes by.
Oh.
We're already at the end, and I do one thing. I turn the floor over to my guest one last time. Plug, promote, talk about anything you'd like. Sandra, the floor is yours.
Well, I briefly talked about my salon space. You can check that out on my website, The Plum at TH2. And I encourage you to think about the renaissance of salons in your own area as a way of bringing people together in community to discuss the topics that are important in your communities. And you can check out my website for any inspiration. We talked about my podcast, The Edge of Every Day. You can check that out on all the podcast platforms. My niche, I have a wide spectrum of voices that come onto my podcast. My niche, it's not a niche per se, in that I talk about one topic. It's a niche in the sense that with this wide spectrum of voices, I'm asking all of them to speak about the rough edges, the ways that they have the work that they're doing has transformed them, as well as their clients or the people in their lives. So again, it's a wide spectrum of voices and books and ways of being in the world. You can check out my YouTube channel, which has all of my podcast episodes, over 120 episodes. It also has clips of performances that I've been in. There's a clip from when I worked in Pittsburgh. Oh my God, I did Evita at the Byam Theater. That's on my website for you Pittsburghers who may be curious. I'm also a wedding officiant. So in addition to storytelling on stage and in podcasting, I tell love stories and create unique wedding ceremonies for couples that hire me. And I will be returning to the cabaret stage in New York in October, doing a Blue Wave cabaret show right before the midterm elections. So that's all of my news at the moment.
You are up to date. The Edge of Every Day is the podcast. Check that out. Make sure you like and subscribe. Follow along. SandraBargman.com is the website. We'll have all the links in the show notes. Sandra, do you remember what time it was?
It is time to party, but I think we've been partying. Should we just keep the partying going?
Let's keep it going.
I think that Poduty in the News is all about celebrating life and podcasting.
What time is it?